Let's delve into the novel to learn who Erwin Lilius is. Erwin Lilius, Perwin, and Stella are characters from the famous Western novel Perwin and Stella. She is the illegitimate daughter of the Duke of Vilema, a land that lost in the war. She is also the only heir of Duke Vilema. For this reason, she was offered to the Teregia Empire. The Teregia royal family accepted her as a peace offering and arranged for her to marry the emperor's right-hand man and the real power in the empire, Duke Carlisle. Because this marriage aimed at peace between the two nations, they had to maintain at least 5 years of married life. However, Erwin deeply hated Perwin, the one who nearly destroyed her homeland. In 4 years of marriage, she not only failed to bear a child, but also neglected the basic responsibilities of a duchess. Rumors spread throughout the Carlisle territory. Then, one day, as this marriage was about to end, someone poisoned Duke Carlisle's wine. However, with the help of the doctors, he survived. As the Duchess, Erwin Lilius always harbored resentment towards the Duke, so she was the prime suspect. Soon after, it was revealed that she had illegally sent Carlisle territory's assets back to the Duchy of Vilema. Finally, she was brought to the execution stand. Despite Erwin repeatedly claiming her innocence, no one believed her. Even her husband, who once truly loved her, Duke Carlisle, did not believe her. Thus, Erwin faced her tragic end. Afterward, Perwin Carlisle remarried Lady Stella Bell, who took care of him thoroughly and lived a happy life from then on. Back to the poor girl. She was lamenting her fate. Why did she transmigrate to become Erwin? She frowned at herself in the mirror and lamented, "Why did I end up in the body of a cruel and foolish wife? A wife doomed to die, no less." But she gradually composed herself and accepted the truth, realizing that blaming herself wouldn't change anything. She had to change Erwin's way of life to avoid her tragic end. She turned to the maid and hesitantly asked, unsure of how to address her. The maid, noticing something strange, asked back, "What's the matter, Duchess?" She asked, "How long have I been married?" The maid politely replied, "This is the 5th year, Your Grace." But in her mind, she was wondering what excuse the Duchess was planning to cause trouble with. The Duchess replied, "Is that so? Thank you." The maid was stunned and wondered, "The Duchess thanked me? That's really strange. The 5th year already. All right, in this remaining year, I'll try to behave myself. After the divorce, I just need to get a small house as a divorce settlement, and then live my own life," the Duchess pondered to herself. The maids were still wondering about the Duchess's change. Meanwhile, the reluctant Duchess was planning to save herself. All right, to survive, I must seize the opportunity to become Duke Carlisle's ex-wife. After thinking about it, I realized that to survive here, I need to do good deeds, starting with the people around me, making them no longer fear me. Especially, I must change that person's perception of me. Lost in thought, she suddenly heard the door open. She jumped and turned around to see a man entering with a disheveled appearance. He stomped noisily, quite rudely. The maids respectfully bowed and said, "Duke, you've arrived." "So this is Perwin," she thought to herself. "How are you feeling?" he asked curtly. She looked into his eyes and hadn't had time to reply. He, used to his wife's behavior, turned away and said, "You seem fine, so I'll be going now," then turned to leave. The girl remembered what she had to do and quickly patted his back, holding him back. "Please don't leave so quickly." Realizing she was too forceful, she gently grasped his sleeve to pull him back. He turned around, looking surprised, and asked curtly, "Is there something you need?" She replied, "Thank you for coming to see me." The whole room seemed to freeze for a moment. The maids, wide-eyed, whispered to each other, "Why did the Duchess say such things? Is it because of some after effects of her illness?" The main reason for Erwin's death was her strained relationship with her husband. That was why she was suspected of masterminding the poisoning. To get rid of the bad reputation of possibly killing her husband, the first step was to rebuild a good relationship with him. She thought to herself. Her eyes sparkled, her face kind and adorable. However, due to her past actions, the Duke remained cautious. He coldly brushed her hand away and left. The Duchess was truly surprised and thought her first attempt had failed. Erwin must have done something terrible for him to act that way. Duke Perwin left, but his mind was still occupied by his wife's "thank you." Could the sun have risen from the west? She never paid any attention to me before, and now she says "thank you." He walked into the study, closing the door, leaving the old maid outside. Sitting pensively, he brought his hand to his nose and sniffed the hand his wife had held. I don't smell anything. He thought about the previous night, recalling his prayer. Could it be that his wish had come true? Irwin's change happened too quickly. He couldn't believe it. Is my wife sick and lost her memory? She seems like a different person. Tilly, are you there? Not knowing whom to talk to about this, he called out to see if the old maid was there. The old maid politely replied, Yes, master, I'm here. Did you call for me? He then told the story to the old maid, hoping for some advice. Irwin's behavior is completely strange. Could she have lost her mind? The old maid replied, The doctor said it's too early to conclude. We need to observe for a while longer. But her behavior is indeed like she has become a different person. Everything has changed, from her personality to her tone. She has become gentler. The question is why? Normally she wouldn't even speak to me, and now she says thank you. He asked while trying to find the answer himself. The old maid replied, Perhaps the Duchess wants to change herself. People often say that sometimes illness can change a person's character. Maybe the Duchess is tired of the thorny life she led before and wants to restore her relationship with you. He interrupted the old maid and told her to leave so he could be alone. The old maid politely left. No, that's just a meaningless hope. I've already made up my mind. No more expecting anything from her, no more letting her hurt me, but why? Although he tried not to think about his wife's thank you anymore, he couldn't help but hope that it was a sign of change. This is crazy, he thought to himself, frustrated. The image of his beloved wife with sparkling blue eyes, full of life, and the way her lips mouthed thank you, lingered in his mind. This sudden change made him find it hard to believe, but part of him still held on to hope. Maybe this is a chance for everything to change. Maybe Irwin is really trying to make amends, he told himself. So while Perwin struggled with conflicting emotions, Irwin, despite trying to change her way of life to avoid a tragic end, could not escape the obstacles from her past and the current suspicions. She knew that to survive, she had to prove that she was not someone who could harm her husband, but a devoted and trustworthy wife. The inner conflict of both characters was now intense. Irwin wanted to save herself and find a way to change her fate, while Perwin could not stop wondering if his wife had truly changed and if there was a chance for them to start anew. These unresolved conflicts and emotions made their lives more complicated than ever. The story of Irwin and Perwin was opening a new chapter full of surprises where anything could happen, and each character had to face difficult decisions to change their destiny.